Am I Wrighster or am I wrong? With my main man, of course, Mr. Ralph Amsden. Oh, nice. This is when you figure out that you have totally messed up today. Actually, no, I didn't. I did mess up. See, this is where we start. This is how we start the day, but it is A-okay. Watch. See how quickly I can do this because I'm a perfectionist. And as you guys can see, the scrolling text at the bottom is completely wrong. It's completely wrong. Yep. But look at that though. Look at that. So am I right, sir? Right. Am I wrong? With my main man, Ralph Amsden. Couple really good things up for you guys today. First of all, Ralph is a lover, not a fighter, so he inexplicably wanted to talk about Valentine's Day, so we'll talk about that. Winter weather in Texas is apparently the cold is being more taken seriously than COVID in Texas. NASCAR is inviting black people to the Daytona 500. It would have worked, but the weather absolutely killed it. Urban Meyer hired Chris Doyle as strength and conditioning coach for the Jaguars, and he promptly resigned. Duke and Texas are struggling in college basketball, just like young teams did in college football. The teams with the veteran QBs lasted and did well. The adversity of the pandemic does not look kindly upon the youth. And of course, our best of social media. You don't want to miss this today. Absolute fire. This is Am I Right or Am I Wrong? The intersection where sports, business, society, and pop culture meet the truth. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, fire. Facts only. Check your feelings at the door. No BS is allowed. We keep it 100. Shoot us an email. I'm mad. IMMAD at unafraidshow.com. Make sure that you tell a friend about the podcast. Share it. All that, the way we can continue to grow. We will be on iHeart very soon. I'm super excited about that. Great partnership there. Big deal. And you guys can catch me on Fox Sports Radio on Sundays, 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific, and Monday through Friday, 10 p.m., 1 a.m. Eastern Time on Mad Dog Sports Radio, and me and Ralph as well on the Pac-12 Apostles podcast. So, Ralph, yesterday was Valentine's Day. You wanted to talk about Valentine's Day because you're a big softie. You're a lover.
What?
Okay, go on. What?
I know. I just said we gave up on it, like as a couple in my house. So I'm not that big of a softie. I think like part of me at some point was like maybe we'll do something, and then I found out on the night of February 13th at about 9 p.m. that it was February 13th. I thought it was the 12th the whole day. So I thought maybe about going out and getting something, but like honestly, we looked at each other and were like, hey, not this year. And didn't even feel like 1 ounce or iota of guilt about it at all, of just letting it go. I'm not like aggressively against Valentine's Day. I'm not saying, oh, it's a consumeristic holiday meant to prop up florists. It's nothing like that, man. And it's not that I don't appreciate my wife. She's holding us all down, but in no way did we even acknowledge it yesterday, and I feel fine about it. I don't know if you feel like maybe I'm letting my relationship die or something. I wanted to run that by you and see what you thought.
I until a few years ago didn't even acknowledge the existence of Valentine's Day. Never. Just because I just thought it was an opportunity for, like, why does my love have to be judged on this day? You know, if I'm loving you every other day, like why is this day so much more significant? Because it's a man-made holiday. I was like, well, why can't we have our own Valentine's Day on like June 6th? You know, whatever. It just felt so. And then also, you got to go out to eat and all this. I'm like, bro, like it's crowded. It's so inconvenient. And I'm like, and then we had 1 year we hired a private chef. So I was like, okay, I was down with that. But and now you're over there laughing. You're like, oh yeah, he hired her.
No, man, no. I don't begrudge anybody who goes all out for Valentine's Day. There's an NFL player that I'm close with who's personal manager. I follow him on Instagram, and he did something yesterday called an urban picnic. So they come and they set up all the stuff for you outdoors, and all you got to do is just
What?
show up
Just show
and
up?
show
Oh,
up and
bro,
enjoy
that's
it.
my
And it was
type.
like, I was like, damn, this is elite. I'm gonna send you a link to it because it
Yes.
looked incredible. And I
Dude,
was like,
I am
hey, good for
always
him.
asked about going on freaking picnics, and I'm like, this is too much work. But if I can get that urban, that's just as good.
Yeah,
Because
no,
that
and
requires planning and effort.
oh, it was
Oh,
like sushi with like a guide on how to roll and make it yourself. It had like activities planned. It was like a full afternoon thing. And then I know another guy who's an NFL coach, and him and his girlfriend, fiance, who was kind of partially a former colleague of mine, they went out and had like professional pictures done and everything, and they look great. Like they got all dressed up, white tuxedo, white dress. I
it's
think all that stuff is
Valentine's
real
Day,
cool.
dude.
Do you have that clip from the University of Georgia defensive analyst? What he did on
No.
Valentine's Day? Okay, so I just sent it to you. It's in your inbox on Twitter. This dude made us all look bad. He had his wedding ring
Oh,
um
yes, yes,
delivered by
yes.
drone. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think all that stuff's cool. I just didn't participate this year, and I don't feel bad about it.
Okay, well, I will get it in just. I will continue to. I will effort this clip super quickly because I know that you like to have these things
But do you
because you did
when
send it to me.
when you see stuff like this though, George, do you say like, "Oh man, like that guy's making us all look bad. That guy's putting pressure on all of us"? Because I don't see it that way at all. I think it's fantastic. Like, I'm way to raise the bar. It doesn't
See,
bother me at all.
no, it doesn't bother me at all either. Like okay, I'm a person like I'm not gonna sit there and let you bother my relationship and my life. You know what I mean? Like maybe my wife might get upset about some stuff like that, but not me. Here's the clip.
Oh my
Bring it
god.
to me, Jack. Knee dirty. Gotta get that knee dirty, man.
So okay, that's cute. He
Yeah.
did it. I mean, he's in college. If you're gonna do a proposal, yes, you should go more all out. But just a Valentine's Day, completely overrated. Completely overrated.
Okay. All
But
right.
some people don't feel that way, and it's like a make or break on their relationship. And that's one of the places that me and my wife have had to meet on the middle. Um, but next thing up in the in Dallas, right? In Dallas, it's been actually
Oh, I feel bad. I already started laughing. I'm an evil person.
yeah, exactly. So in
Man,
Dallas, the weather's really, really bad. Really, really bad.
all of
People are,
Texas.
yes, it is cold. I just talked to my boy who lives out there now, and he was like, dude, our power's out. They have a newborn baby, only 7 months old, and it's really bad. But that's not the point. The point is that it has then turned into a social media battle over what's actually cold. And this goes back a little bit to what happened with what's her name? That's the sideline reporter.
Oh, I'm never gonna get this. You got me on the spot. Hold on.
Not not Michelle. So it was a sideline.
Pam Oliver.
Yeah,
Pam Oliver.
yeah, there we go. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
Pam,
yeah.
Pam Oliver. She was out at I think Green Bay or Buffalo or something. And at the end of the game, she was when she was doing her sideline, she looked very, very cold. She was speaking a little slower than probably usual, and people were saying, "Oh, she's drunk." And I was like, "Fool, it's cold outside. You know what it's like to stand outside for 5 straight hours in 30-degree weather?" They're like, "30 degrees isn't cold." And I'm like, yes, the hell it is when you live in Florida. When you live in California, it is. And people were, And there's this lady on Twitter that said, everybody in Texas, stay safe. It's really cold outside. Check on your neighbors. All of this kind of stuff. And it was met with absolute hate. And I just was like, what? It's single digit degrees. People's air conditioners breaks, their heat breaks. They don't have food. The roads are icy. Yes, check on your damn neighbor. Like, why is this controversial?
Okay, so I'll admit, like, first of all, it's not funny because, as somebody did point out, anytime you have weather in an area that area wasn't designed for that type of weather, it can be catastrophic. And in
Yes.
Florida, or in Texas, all 254 counties in Texas right now are on a severe winter warning. The governor has declared a state of emergency. One guy on Twitter, David Finfrock, said, in my 45 years of covering Texas weather, I don't remember seeing all 254 counties in the state under a winter storm warning. And the Guadalupe Mountains actually have a blizzard warning. Amarillo, I think, like the streets are frozen. That's in North Texas. Dallas was 12 degrees yesterday. And I will admit, like, sometimes cold weather for people who aren't used to cold weather, like a lot of the videos that come out on Twitter and everything. I don't know if you saw, there was a truck in Nashville that had backed out of its driveway and slid down a hill. He tried to throw the parking brake on, and everything was captured from a front door ring camera. I probably sobbed crying, laughing. I'm about to cry laughing again at that. But when you think about it, you're like, okay, so obviously not everybody in Texas has money or has the ability to, like, literally weather the storm. And so you actually have to take something like this seriously. And the one thing you brought up, yeah, it feels like Texas is taking this a lot more seriously than even they took COVID. They're shutting everything down. I think they're telling people to conserve energy because the wind turbines are frozen. Their primary oil refinery, the largest oil refinery in the country, is shut down right now. And so it's just, I mean, it's an absolute mess out there. I feel bad for laughing at the idea that, because I live in Arizona, I have extreme weather. You had extreme weather in California this last summer, and couple it with the fires and everything like that. I feel like people laugh at California a little bit when the weather gets crazy and when there's all sorts of issues. And so I don't mean anything by it, Texas, but it's a little bit funny that probably a lot of people moved from California to Texas to escape some of the extreme ups and downs of the weather and some of the government restrictions. They go to Texas and now they're locked down in freezing weather under government restrictions.
Well, these are the things that happen, bro. I mean, I just don't. Okay, so you made a good point that when places aren't designed for weather, it becomes a problem. Like, if in Dallas, we've seen huge accidents, people have died, all of this. But if you put that same freezing weather, everything in Colorado, or you put it in Nebraska, or you put it in Wyoming, nobody's going to stop doing what they're doing. Like, the city is prepared. The streets are going to be safe to drive on. Everything. It's when you're not prepared. It's like when we get monsoons here in California, it's flooding, flash floods, everything all over the place. We're not prepared for rain like that. But but in Seattle, and I mean, the drainage isn't the same, but if it rains in Seattle for 30 days straight, the streets are barely even going to flood because they're prepared for this.
Yeah. In the middle of the town that I live in, 20 miles south of Phoenix, in a little suburban island called Maricopa. And there's about 50,000 people out here.
Everybody knows about Maricopa now, buddy.
So the town is cut in half by just a big empty wash, and it's about the size of a creek bed, and it runs all the way through the middle of town, and it's just dry with some shrubbery in it 360 days a year. But the 5 days a year when it rains out here, we flood. The whole town floods. That wash has to be there, or else the entire town would be underwater, because the ground out here isn't.
It rained for 10 straight days in Arizona?
Oh, I couldn't imagine, because the ground doesn't hold water out here. The drainage is only meant for like one big monsoon dump, and then to channel all the water away. If it rained for 10 straight, I remember once it rained for 3 straight days here, and I tried to power through it in my Mercedes station wagon, and two of my tires came up off the ground, almost floated the car. And that was in my neighborhood in Chandler, Arizona. So I couldn't imagine. And it doesn't just rain out. It doesn't drizzle. It just dumps rain. It only storms. It only monsoons. But yeah, if we didn't have that ditch through the middle of the town, this entire town wouldn't exist. It'd just get swept away in the water. So I mean, I get that. And then some people are just adaptable to everything. Some people have all the seasons. I got a friend in Maine who owns a lodge on a lake. They take people boating and everything. Well, for 4 months a year, that lake is frozen. So they got a bunch of homes that they put up on skis, and they push they push the houses out onto the lake, and then they drill holes and they ice fish. So they're just adapted to all potential weather situations out there. Most places only have, just a couple of like most people, especially in the southern United States, only have like 2 seasons, maybe 2.5. So when you give all of Texas an instant winter, yikes.
Yeah, it's become a problem. Next thing up. So I never thought I would live to see the day where NASCAR was like attractive to black people. And granted, like I will give NASCAR a lot of credit, because in the last 12 months, they have done a lot, an absolute ton, to make sure that they invite, make NASCAR more inclusive. And because I've said from a long time that NASCAR is like hockey. It's better in person than it is on television. But after you go in person, you appreciate it on television too, because it's difficult, it's fast. It doesn't look as fast on television as it is in real life. It's super loud. NASCAR is fun. But when you go to the track, you see all these Confederate flags. It just doesn't look like the crowd that's happy to see me there. So I didn't feel like, oh wow, they want me to come back. But to see the way they've reacted to the Bubba Wallace situation, getting rid of the Confederate flags, Kyle Larson, him saying the N-word, and then they having a conversation on race day with Emmanuel Acho. I was like, and then they were paying social media influencers like Spice Adams, Josiah Johnson, to make sure that NASCAR people were like, yo, no, watch the Daytona 500. And I know a lot of people that were like, yo, I'm going to check it out. But then a 15-car pileup and the 7-hour rain delay just killed the mood. I mean, it was literally like the phone ringing saying somebody died right when you're getting ready to have sex.
Oh, jeez. Literally? All right.
Or at least somebody's in the hospital. Maybe not a death, but the point is you can't go back to that same feeling you had before.
All right. Well, let the expert here talk about why black people should like NASCAR. I don't know, man. My dad and my brother, they're gearheads. We went to funny car races, boat car races, a lot of motorcycle, dirt bike racing and stuff like that. Anywhere that Robosaurus would show up, I went to all those things as a kid. Robosaurus, it's the thing that they use to convince people to bring their kids out to this stuff. It's a giant robot that like eats old cars and sets them on fire. And they have it like as sort of like a side event thing to all these, like I live right next to a racetrack out here where you can take like your Hyundai Elantra if you pay $10 and take it around the track. And so
I like it. See,
it's
worth doing.
It's fun. It's fun. I will tell you this. It didn't take with me. I never got into it the way that a lot of my family did. However, it was never not fun to go to live. It's an awesome place to just go and camp out and meet people and eat food and drink and cook. If you're into cook, George, I know you love being out there smoking meat and doing all that stuff
Oh,
out next to a
yeah,
track.
because they get
It
up there like
is
a week before the race.
yeah, the people watching is just absolutely insane. Like I mean, it is literally an event where you grill out and watch fast cars. Like every culture should be
How
into
would
something like
you?
that. But the people in charge haven't necessarily always been super accommodating to other cultures. And I think a lot of white people tried to say like, all right, well, this is the last sport where somebody named LeBron isn't jumping from half court, and so we're we're gonna try to like lay some serious claim over this thing, and like everything is more fun when more people are involved. That's why I've always liked how accommodating and patient hockey fans are, because hockey's up there with NASCAR as like just an absolute blast live, but then you
Yeah.
try to get into it on TV and it's just a little bit different experience. I would recommend this if you pick a driver, because I remember when I was a kid, that's what I was like. All right, I really want to get into NASCAR, so I picked a driver. His name was Matt Kenseth. He was pretty good, and that kept me somewhat interested. But you do have to pick a couple of drivers to get to know a little bit better. But if you don't see any representation in it, then it's really hard to identify. And now
Well,
NASCAR has a
guess
little bit of that.
guess who my driver is? Guess who my driver is?
Uh, does it rhyme with Chuba Flawless?
Yes, Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace is my guy. I've thrown in with Bubba
Okay.
Wallace, and not only have I thrown in with Bubba Wallace, it made it even easier because he switched teams, and now he's on Michael Jordan's racing team. So how easy is this for black people to get involved?
And
Like,
you got your own shoes,
yes, we got
right?
our
They
own
got
NASCAR.
Yeah.
Dude, so and granted, not every black person is gonna come on is gonna jump on Bubba Wallace, but he's got a better car, he's got a better situation. So, but then I can root for Denny Hamlin too because he owns the team. So he's not even racing on that team. Now I got two dudes that I'm vested in. Like I'm like, okay, cool. I'm watching them and I want them to do well and I want them to win.
Okay. Okay. I'll maybe I'll look a little bit more into it. Like I said, my childhood was filled with gearhead stuff, and I mean, my family still goes to the sand dunes every other weekend. They're down there with rail cars making noise out in Glamis. But it just never. I don't know. I guess it never. I always gravitated toward the sports that had like major athletic accomplishments and
Yeah.
not
Well, because
necessarily
NASCAR
technical
drivers
skills.
aren't athletes. They're like endurance guys. They're like endurance people. I mean, it does
Yeah, I
take some.
guess it would be called like calling because I've seen people make this argument for 3 decades now that they are athletes, but I've never heard anybody call like a fighter pilot an athlete, or it's like a technical skill set plus endurance. There's athleticism involved, absolutely, but it's something different. It really is its own thing, and that
Yeah.
doesn't make it worse. And that's the thing that I
It's
wish
just
people would get
different.
away from.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's different. They're not athletes in the traditional sense because they're not. They're actually using a machine on top of their bodies, and the machine is actually has a plays at least as big of a part of whether you
yeah.
can win or lose. And in typical athletics, it's not the same. But here's the point that I wanted to make because a lot of people ask because they think that just throwing in Bubba Wallace and Denny Hamlin being with Michael Jordan that's all of a sudden going to grow the sport of NASCAR. No, it's going to help, but the thing that it'll do is what Tiger Woods and Serena Williams did for golf and tennis, which is because racing is tremendously expensive. It's a very, very expensive sport. So then, or activity or whatever else you want to call it. So if you want to race go-karts, your parent has to be the mechanic too, unless you're really rich. So if you can get younger minorities involved in racing, then so like if my 9-year-old son, if he starts racing go-karts now, So my family of 7 is then going to be involved in racing.
Yeah.
So now that's 7 people. But then you add grandparents, uncles, aunties, cousins, nephews, people, friends who want to come see, who come support you, same way that they would do at a baseball or a soccer game. Now all of a sudden, some of those people are going to be gravitated to it. So for every one kid that you get involved in it, you got 100 more eyeballs on the sport, and then that just exponentially increases. So getting the kids involved, I think, is more important than even getting the adults involved.
Yeah, especially it is about access and what you can see, um, and once you see it and you see that they're having fun, like that's a big part of it. I never would have watched golf if it wasn't for Tiger Woods,
Oh, me either.
and
That's why I started playing.
and honestly, like him having fun. It had for me. It didn't necessarily have anything to do with race. It was youth because I watched him in the play as an amateur. I watched him win the amateur championship, and then I watched him play majors as an amateur. And it was one that he was young, and two that he was having fun because everybody else out there just looked like they were kind of going about it and being a little stuffy about it. And that the decorum was that you don't celebrate. Every time he would pump his fist, I'd pump my fist. Like I
Yeah.
love that stuff. And so once you see like how crazy NASCAR can get, once you get like you get somebody involved, you get them access to it, and then you see like the way that they celebrate after they win. They go wild once a week. They go wild like they won the Western Conference Finals after every
Yeah.
race that they win, you know.
And then
And
sometimes there's crashes, sometimes they fight. Like it's like when they actually have beef, it's like wrestling, but in real life.
yeah, and and again, like the whole thing is just an event to be able to go out there. It's really cool, and so I would absolutely welcome the growth of the sport. I feel like a more diverse cross section of interest in the sport would make me more interested because it's so regionally entrenched
Yep.
to the south and the east coast that even though there's some tracks out here and everything like that, it's a lot like golf. Like if golf wasn't in your neighborhood or hockey wasn't in your neighborhood, or for a lot of northern states, if baseball's not in your neighborhood, it's that much more difficult to get in. So the way that like the NFL has the Play 60 stuff that comes out to all the elementary schools and keeps kids engaged, that needs to be NASCAR's focus. NASCAR needs to be out in all these different
Yep.
places where they've never had any reach, and you need to be able to meet drivers, you need to be able to sit in a race car, you need to be able to do all sorts of stuff to just grab people's attention.
Absolutely. Um, Next thing up, we got up. So Urban Meyer, head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, the team that drafted me, the team I played for. He went and hired Chris Doyle to be their strength and conditioning coach. Chris Doyle, his resume is phenomenal. He was the strength and conditioning coach from Iowa from 1999 until what, 2019 or 2020. He was the highest paid strength and conditioning coach in all of college football, very well regarded. But then it turns out that this dude has been stepping on people's fingers, having 13 kids go to the hospital, making racial remarks to kids, treating people unfairly because of their race. And ultimately, he gets fired for these racial incidents. Iowa hired an independent investigative team, and they found cause to fire this man. So there's something. So white players and black players talked about the things that he did. He gets fired. Urban Meyer gets hired at Jacksonville to be the head coach, and Urban Meyer came out and said, "Oh, I vetted this guy. Nothing's gonna go wrong. You guys trust me. I know what I'm doing." Like, that whole college football head coach. I do what I want. Everybody else has to just listen because I'm the boss. I'm God around here. And then the Fritz Pollard Alliance, probably the players, everybody else was like, hell no, why the hell you hired this dude? Of all the strength and conditioning coaches in the country, this is the one you wanted. What's up with that, Urban? And then and on a Friday news dump, he resigned, and everybody's like, "Oh, Urban, that's strike one, buddy." I knew this was not going to work from the jump, and I don't know why Urban Meyer was so freaking tone deaf that he thought that this was going to work.
Yeah, a couple of things. Like, let's start with Urban Meyer. You got to know, you have to have some self-awareness. You have to. You're you're a major public figure who is out of coaching, whose reputation just got dragged through the mud for a very specific issue, which was not necessarily being sensitive to the people who were claiming to be victimized by a situation in order to side with somebody in your employ. Like
Yes.
that's the very specific reason that your name has been dragged through the mud. So for you to make one of your first moves to bring somebody in who has essentially been accused of making people super uncomfortable, making people's lives hell, and for you, it wasn't so much that he hired him, it was that he said, I vetted him, like I'm vouching for him.
Yes.
When that was the thing that you just got in trouble for doing, was having the back of somebody who wasn't being completely forthright, and who was an asshole, like just not a great person, right? So, you put yourself in the exact same situation. I can't fault Chris Doyle for accepting the job.
Yeah.
You actually made me slightly empathetic for him that he had to then resign in disgrace immediately after. He's fine financially, and he was fine for a really long time, making people feel like less than, and making them feel like they weren't necessarily able to speak on it, or that they had no power. And then to move on to Chris Doyle. Look, man, it's almost worse when you have like 40 people saying like there's something off about this guy,
Yeah.
and they don't fully put their finger on it and pinpoint it, but they do say like, hey, I know how this guy made me feel over time. And it's people who have never even talked to each other before, and it spans generations of players cycling in and out of Iowa. That's almost worse than one person in the history of your program accusing you of doing a very specific, very terrible thing. So there's obviously some stuff that Chris Doyle has to examine, and maybe he deserves another chance. There's nobody saying that he wasn't good at what he did.
Yeah.
The strength coach profession is super weird because it's one of the most important coaches, but it's often not one of the highest paid ones. That's starting to change a little bit. But also, when you're super isolated within and insulated within the strength coach community, some of these strength coaches get like those weird scientist movies where they just been in a lab forever, and then they start to do things that they don't know. They never ask the question if they should, just can they?
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of strength coaches are like borderline eugenics weirdos in the way that they talk about the human body, and the way that they're just completely outcome oriented, and the stuff that they're trying to get out of you as an athlete. Like if you're a strength coach and you don't have people in your community who aren't a strength coach, 99% chance you're going to turn into a giant weirdo.
Yep.
And
see, here is okay, so I believe that at some point in time, Chris Doyle can get a second chance. But this was definitely not the way to handle it. Not the way to handle it in terms of your Urban Meyer. And here is my issue with Urban Meyer, just in general to begin with. Okay, so Urban Meyer left Florida. Scandals come out about stuff he covered up with Aaron Hernandez, other guys, all the arrests, all of that. But he retired for health reasons. And then the stuff comes out with Zach Smith at Ohio State. He retires for health reasons again. So, and if we go back to that Big Ten media day where he lied about what he knew in the situation with his assistant head coach, Zach Smith, and the stuff with his wife, Courtney, all of that. The school actually came out in their report and said, oh, he had been taking medication and it affected his judgment, all this stuff. And I'm like, so how the freak can you coach? How the hell can you be a damn football coach if your memory is affected by the medication that you're taking and your judgment, but people still want to keep throwing him jobs because obviously he's been very successful. But I'm like, cut the crap, dude. Like, I'm not saying that the dude does not have some health issues, but to continuously blame them for your bad decisions and the things that have happened around you, but then say, oh yeah, I'm good to be a head coach again, it's bullshit, dude. Like, there's no other way to say it. I mean, what else am I supposed to think if your medication and the stuff that's happening to you, unless you've got a cure, why all of a sudden is something different? Like, how can you coach if your memory isn't intact? If your medicine makes you make bad decisions? How?
Right. At the highest level, when everybody is a professional and everybody has to be on point all the time. Can you read the statement from Rod Graves and the Fritz Pollard Alliance? Because I want people to know, if you're not familiar with Rod Graves, this is not the type of thing that he would come out and say. He's super buttoned up, super professional all of the time. And so I think the interesting thing for the Fritz Pollard Alliance, which I think exists to promote diversity within all aspects of NFL life, not just coaching ranks, but front office as well. When you go out of your way to hire Urban Meyer, who has had multiple health issues, and then he goes out of his way to hire somebody who he knows, he says he vouches for, that actually has scandal involving the way that he treats minorities and people within the program. I think that Rod Graves absolutely nailed everything.
Here's what he said. He said, at the time when the NFL has failed to solve its problem with racial hiring practices, it's simply unacceptable to welcome Chris Doyle into the ranks of NFL coaches. Doyle's departure from the University of Iowa reflected a tenure riddled with poor judgment and mistreatment of black players. His conduct should be disqualifying for the NFL as it was for the University of Iowa. I mean, what else is it? But Urban Meyer, I vet everyone on our staff. And like I said, the relationship goes back close to 20 years and a lot of hard questions asked, a lot of vetting involved with all our staff. We did a very good job vetting this one.
It does, none of that means anything unless you ask specifics, unless you say, hey, does he feel like he was culpable for any of the things that he was accused of? What has he done to do something different? You can't just say I vetted them. You could say like, hey, like these are the 3 or 4 things that he's been doing over the last few months. And this is why I think it's important to have him be a member of our program, because he's gone from a situation in which he was part of the problem to actually being part of the solution. He's an ally now, and he's the kind of guy that we want to hold up as somebody who can experience redemption. And then we're free to also give that, because what we really need in this fight right now is allies, even though, he could have done that by hiring somebody who would have, shown that a little bit more. But I mean, there was definitely better ways to handle it than just saying, hey, Urban Meyer saying, hey, I did everything right. And then Chris Doyle's the one who resigned. And so it's not even like Urban Meyer said, hey, I'm admitting that wasn't the best thing, and so I'm the one that got rid of him. He's saying that Chris Doyle's the one that handed in his resignation. So
because he didn't want to be a distraction.
Right. So Urban Meyer, at this point in time, all we can know, surmise from this, is he has learned nothing.
Here is what probably happened. Shad Khan and ownership, because Urban Meyer has full control of the staff, everything. So he went to go hire him. Shad Khan said, okay, not paying attention to who this dude is. He's like, Urban Meyer's not going to hire somebody that's going to cause me a scandal. That's the dude you want? Okay, fine. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, whoa, Urban, what the hell are you doing, dude? This is not okay. I bet you that's how it happened. That call had to come down on high because it was one day later. So today, a video came out on Twitter from the Lakers-Nuggets game last night, and it sent social media into a firestorm. And I'm like, why can't we have nice things? So this is LeBron James. He goes down court, takes off from behind the dotted line, from halfway in between the dotted line and the free throw line, and dunks the ball in between amongst some porous defense. And all everybody wants to talk about is that this is a potential travel. Ralph, I don't understand what the hate for this video is. They're like, 1, 2, 3. That's a gather step. That is not a travel. First thing, it's amazing. LeBron James is 36 in his 18th year, still taking off from the free throw line. He didn't travel, but all I see is social media hate. It's because it's LeBron. Who are they going to go on? Yeah, go on.
I don't know if it's because of LeBron. I mean, I one of my favorite things in the world is to watch basketball with like just grouchy boomers or Gen Xers who will say, "Ready, travel," and that's all they say. They just say travel after every play. They enjoy absolutely nothing about the game, and they they just say travel like that. That stuff, it adds to the entertainment of the game to me, especially when it's a team, like if it's the opposite team doing it to you and you can tell that they're just annoyed. But the truth is, like, it feels like more and more people are so spoiled that they have just lost the wonder of it all. That is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. When you take into account um, his age, it's just like everything about that is cool. And I imagine to myself like you brought up when we were doing the show prep, the Patrick Mahomes diving scoop throw that was on target, one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And you'll have people that just be like, oh, incomplete. You have Barry Bonds put together one of the most majestic baseball seasons in history, in which he walked more times than he struck out or singled. He walked more times than he singled. He had more home runs than singles. And people are just like, steroids. Like they don't. It's like a built-in thing to let them say this doesn't count. I can't enjoy this. Okay, you can acknowledge that something is in some way artificial or maybe outside the rules, or you might consider that not a gather and a third step because I think it's probably borderline. But the idea that you wouldn't enjoy that is insane to me. That is amazing. That is awe-inspiring. Why would you not be in awe of that?
It's LeBron James, dude. When LeBron James leaves, who are people going to blame all their troubles, all their hate? Where are they going to place it when LeBron James leaves?
They can join you in blaming all your stuff on James Harden.
Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. Next thing on social media. This video
Big old boat
sent
parade.
people insane
Wait,
as well.
wait,
This is
no,
Tom Brady tossing the Lombardi
Good.
trophy from one boat
Okay.
to the next.
Touchdown.
While his daughter's yelling, "Daddy, no, no, no!" That was the funniest part of the video, is hearing his daughter scream and say, "Daddy, don't do it." He was drunk off avocado tequila, and yeah, I thought didn't everybody enjoy this video? Regardless of whether they would have thrown the trophy or not, weren't they like, "Oh my God, this fool just threw the trophy"? It was a piece of great content, right?
Yeah, no, it was funny. Then maybe there's still some of the same LeBron James travel people out there, but no, that was hilarious because you got to admit, George, the first time you saw that video, you stopped breathing.
Yes, I was like,
I did.
I was like, did he throw the trophy? Oh my! I mean, nobody. The only other person that could get away with throwing the trophy in that situation would have been Gronk, because you would expect Gronk to do something like that. You don't.
Because he dented a different Super
Yeah,
Bowl
that's what I'm
trophy,
saying.
right?
You expect Gronk to throw the trophy. From one boat to the next, except for Gronk, absolutely it would have ended up in the water. But Tom Brady, of course, it ended up fine. But here is the issue. We clearly didn't have an issue with it. This lady had an issue with it.
It takes a lot of work, a lot of hard work, a lot of hours go into it. It just really upset me that this trophy was disgraced and disrespected by being thrown as if it was a real football. I didn't sleep for the past 2 nights because of this. I was that upset because I know the passion that goes into this trophy and how my dad and all his fellow silversmiths are so proud to make this. I personally would like an apology, not just to me and my family and the other silversmiths, but to the fans.
What? So this lady's name is Lorraine Groves. Her father is the man who, one of the people who built the Lombardi Trophy. I don't understand. Like, how can your level of
Oh man.
sensitivity be this high? You're demanding apologies from the man who won the trophy for like is this sacrilegious to throw the Lombardi Trophy? It's dangerous because you don't want to lose it, obviously, but I don't understand. She said she
um,
couldn't sleep for 2 nights. How does she live on Earth?
I hate that we're even taking this woman seriously to try to deconstruct something that she said. And I want you to know, not necessarily our viewers, but you to know that I have suppressed all of the cruel things that immediately went into my head that I wanted to say
Okay,
in
so what were
response
they?
to it.
Give us a couple of them.
I feel like if she's out trying to collect apologies, her hairdresser owes her one as well. But let's just stick with it.
That was great.
Oh man. See, I was being good. Just because you think it doesn't mean you got to say it. Once you make something for somebody else, like once the check clears, the check clears. Like if I take my kids to a 5-star restaurant and they get like escargot and they don't like the experience and they spit it back out on their plate, I shouldn't have to apologize to the chef's dad. I've already made the purchase. The check's already
Exactly.
cleared.
Yep.
Like, and even then, like, it's not you, it's your dad. And so there's a level. It's incredible that she got to this point in her life being so deeply affected by something that does not affect her, and
Do you think
even
she
that it does
watched the
not
Super
affect her.
Bowl? Do you think she watched the Super Bowl? Does she look like a person that watched the Super Bowl? Does this look like a lady that watched the Super
Everybody,
Bowl?
It takes a lot of work,
everybody
a lot of
watches.
hard work, a lot of hours go into it. It just really upset me that this trophy was disgraced and disrespected by being
No, but
thrown
does
as
she
if it
look
was a
like a
real
woman
football.
who
I didn't.
watched the Super Bowl?
All right. After watching that video a second time, I owe an apology. I would at least say like her colorist did a decent job on her hair. I don't know about that cut, but everybody watches the Super Bowl. Everybody watches the Super Bowl. I'm not going to
That's a
judge her
home
based off that.
haircut, by the way. That's a home haircut. That's not a, you don't go anywhere for that haircut.
I don't know. Um, I feel ridiculous taking what she said serious because I feel ridiculous that she took that so serious that she lost sleep over it. George, sleep, precious sleep. She's not sleeping because somebody threw something that her dad used to make. Her dad had absolutely nothing to do with that one. And also, whoever did make it, the check has cleared. It's not art. It's a preset template. They're making the same thing every single year.
You make a great point. Once you give something to somebody else, it's done. It's done. Like you have no control over it. Like where when okay, so you're in the process of selling your house and buying another house. If you were selling the house to if was the house that you're gonna buy, right? If the people were if they put in the contract, I want the new buyer to keep this purple piece of garden out in front. And I don't want them to change the color of the one wall in the one bedroom that mattered to me because it has sentimental value. I want it to always stay that way.
Okay.
And then you buy and then they're like, "Are you sure you agree to this?" And then they're like, and you're like, "Yeah." And in your mind, you know, like, dude, this is my house. I'm gonna do with it as I please. So you agree to it, and then you keep it like that for a while because you have good integrity. And then you're like, I don't like this. It sucks. And then you go change it, and then that person comes to you, knocks on the door, and is like, "Yo, the purple patch is gone." What are you gonna say?
Not the person. The person's like grandkid.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Not the person. The person's grandkid. I will say this. I did talk a little bit to somebody who owns a home, and they're part of like a historical society. So you're not actually allowed to change very much.
Correct.
You had to go through some of those discussions and learned a little bit about what you are allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And actually, like, they got caught up in the sale of it a little bit because they added a piece to the property that they should never have been allowed to add. And so now that's creating an issue and them trying to actually move their house. But like, as far as, I mean, but those are like corporate weird rules. This is just a simple thing of like, your dad may have been involved in this once, but he's not involved in it anymore. And even if it was, it's your dad. And even if he had an issue with it, the check already cleared. And so we're like 6 degrees removed from you needing to have anything to say about this. I just want to know what she did or said that put her in a position to be in front of a news camera. Because I like to imagine she wrote 9 paragraphs on Facebook that caught the eye of some young enterprising reporter and gave us this gem. Because that's the thing that I'm obsessed with, is how did we end up giving a voice to this ridiculous complaint?
Yeah, because her audacity is what strikes me the highest. Like, her audacity is insane. The last thing for social media is this picture of Kendall Jenner in a, what is apparently, I Googled because I wanted to make sure I did some research. This is called a microthong, apparently.
Oh, did you do some research, George?
Yes, it's called a microthong. And she is,
this Google history is research.
she
honey.
looks like a Barbie doll. She's skinny, long legs. The picture is clearly photoshopped, right? I looked at it. I'm like, okay, cool. That's a picture of Kendall Jenner, just like Kim Kardashian or Khloe. All their photos are photoshopped on some level in my mind. Like, that's what I anticipate. But people said that Instagram should take this picture down because it's creating body shame issues for other people. And she's hurting their feelings by a picture that she posted in trying to sell underwear, essentially.
Oof. What am I supposed to say here? Okay, first thing, I don't care what somebody wears. Some people care. And George, when through the election, you would hear people say stuff like, the government wants us divided because that way we're easier to control.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I hear stuff like that and I'm like, that's super simplistic because there's a lot of personal responsibility that goes on. And some of these issues are serious enough to keep people divided. If you're going to be on the wrong side of the fence on a really, really serious topic that involves the life and liberty and happiness of another person, you got to jump that fence. There's a reason that divide exists. I will say this though, when it comes to that specific phrase, and we get into the topic of some of the things that seem to piss off females, I would tell you that if there was not, oh man, this is so sensitive.
Go ahead.
If there was not so much time spent on getting upset over the way that other people looked in, whether it's a swimsuit or fashion or on a magazine cover or anything like that, like, man, George, I don't even know if there would be a home for men on any platform doing anything, because women would have completely overtaken the entire universe. They're more times than not, they are the more motivated gender. They are the more empathetic gender. They are the gender that can take the most on their shoulders. They're the most nurturing gender. They are the most educated. They are actually the most educated, especially in America. And I look at all of these talents that our female friends have, and I wonder, why are they not running literally everything? And one obviously has a massive historical component to it, and the other is they get mad at Kendall Jenner and her microthon.
Dude, I was like, how the F are you upset about Kendall Jenner? What the hell she's wearing?
There's
Dude,
one person has any right at all to be upset by that photo, and his name is
Devin
Ben
Booker.
Simmons. No, I think Devin Booker's fine with it. Ben Simmons. Ben
Okay.
Simmons, because that photo came out right after Devin Booker dropped 36 on his head. So,
Oh, dang. So that's just like twisted
yeah,
knife.
and I'm not saying that Ben Simmons has to feel bad about that photo. I'm just saying that if he does, I understand it.
So I stop. She's a celebrity. They post photoshopped pictures. Stop getting mad at them for posting. I mean, it's just like if they get mad at you for posting pictures with too many filters on it. So what? Who cares?
You were like a 6'3", 250 NFL tight end,
Yes.
right? A guy like Leonard Pope comes into the NFL. He's 6'8", 260, not an ounce of fat on him, out of the University of Georgia. What do you do when you see a guy like that? Let's say he got on the cover of Men's Fitness.
Do you
get upset?
The same thing as I do when I see DK Metcalf with his shirt on. I'm like, damn, I wish I was built like that. Jeez, that must be nice, dude. Because I never put a damn shirt on. I just like
But you don't feel threatened. You don't feel like
no.
You got to get to the point. You got to get to the point where
I should
some people just look ridiculous, and they are the anomaly.
Yes,
they are like that's not a common thing. You shouldn't want to be able to attain that because it is so far out there. And when we're talking about specifically that family, they have the ability to pay to look
they're paying
a certain way.
Yes, it's it's like maybe she is like the commercial. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe it's the Maybelline option. Like, dude, it's absolutely crazy. Oh, dude. So, look, I'm gonna have to pull this video because as we're doing this, because we were talking about Valentine's Day in the beginning, right?
Okay.
And our boy Michael B. Jordan, absolutely, he did something that was just, you know how you asked about if stuff puts you to shame?
Hey, I will say that when I asked my wife what her favorite Super Bowl commercial was, and she said his, I was like, they should take that commercial down.
Dude, you are talking about a man who lives in the house with a 20-year-old daughter and my wife who, like, dude, if Michael B. Jordan walked in my house, I don't know what would be left when he left. Like that's the thing.
That commercial was so out there that like there was not even a moment of pause in anybody's mind when at one point in that commercial, Michael B. Jordan is sitting in a bathtub talking about hooking up with another dude.
Yes. Okay.
Because that's what he was and no one even flinched. No one even flinched because it doesn't matter what he does or says. Hey, good for him, man. He's the best part of Friday Night Lights. He can do whatever he wants.
Did for Lori Harvey, his new girlfriend, for Valentine's Day. So we're walking through an aquarium. We're walking through an aquarium with millions of rose petals on the ground.
Appreciate you, my guy.
A table full of plates and I don't know what this is, man. Like, they're having dinner in the middle of one of those aquarium tubes. So now do you feel bad about your Valentine's Day, Ralph?
I mean, yeah, I'm fine to do it without the candles and the rose petals. I'll just sit on the floor and eat McDonald's. Eat a Big Mac on the floor. I don't care. That's a cool place. That's a cool spot that they found to be able to grab a meal. Good for him, man. Good. I mean, that's a different life. That's a different stratosphere.
It sets unrealistic expectations for the normal man. So this is the man version of the Kendall Jenner thing, which is where women would be like, they're like, oh, well, not all women, obviously, but a lot of people who commented on the Kendall Jenner thing were saying, oh, well, this is terrible. She's bad body image for women and but terrible example. Like it's her body. You're now body shaming her. But then that would be like me getting mad at Michael B. Jordan. Nobody else can afford that, Michael B. Jordan. You're shaming everyone else. You've created too high expectations. Now our women aren't gonna think that we're good enough because we can't give you an aquarium meal rented out.
See, but I don't worry about me. I worry about him. I worry about the bar he just set for himself. Like,
See,
that's Valentine's Day number 1. What do you got?
what do you do?
Does
It
2022 already got to be in the works? Because it's not just about him and Lori Harvey anymore. It's about me. I'm invested now, Michael. I want to see what you do next.
See, because me, okay, so it did hit a little bit different for me because your point is very valid. Because I feel like that my wife would look at that and be like, I don't understand. Are we gonna have dinner in the aquarium or what? And I'm like, babe, we don't do dinner. Like I know that we have some privileges in life, partially because of your doing as well. But the renting out the aquarium, that's like we're somewhere in between renting out the aquarium and and that thing that you said, the urban picnic. Like,
Okay.
there's like we can do like where the urban picnic would be totally acceptable. That would be appreciated, right? But like our budget is somewhere in between. Like we're like caught up in like purgatory where you can't go there, but then anything. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm more on the level of I'll buy you a goldfish and we'll sit it on the dinner table.
All right. Last thing up is so I want to talk briefly about okay, so Kentucky and Duke are struggling in college basketball. That's not the story here. You got Kentucky who is 5-7. They stink. Even though they have a kid who played out in here, they have a kid who is top 5 in the nation. They have like 3 top 10 kids on their team and other just the normal kids that would be one and done at Kentucky. Duke, same way, 6-6, bunch of one and done potentially kids, but they're awful. And people say, "Oh, what's going wrong with these teams?" All that. The thing that's going wrong is the pandemic. I said it in college football. Now it's the same as holding true that veterans, older people, they've dealt with this better. It's the younger people, like our kids and younger people who aren't necessarily grounded. If you aren't married, it's been harder. Granted, being married has been hard too. But if you're alone in this, like it's created different anxieties and stuff for you. And for these teams that don't have that veteran leadership, they've struggled. Like I don't see this as any indictment on Coach K, on John Calipari. I see this as the pandemic has screwed their teams up.
Yeah, I mean, technically they should be fine in any other regular year. They had 4 of the top 33 kids in the country sign with them and 2 of the top 8. Like therefore, and usually the ratings companies like Rivals and 24/7 are really pretty good about this. They should be fine. But what you've noticed is you had 2 5-star kids go to Arizona State. Duke obviously always does a fantastic job with their recruiting classes, and this last year was no exception. You know, they got some pretty decent talent to go out there, including Jabri Abdul-Rahim, who's the number 45 player in the country, and plus you have you have Coach K, who's one of the best coaches in the history of the sport. And I think one of the primary issues besides youth that you brought up is just the ability to not really have any consistency. And when you're a team that takes in a ton of talent, rotates a ton of new talent every single year, you need that consistency. You need that 2 to 3 games a week. You need to be able to build in those expectations of what the routine is going to be, because you have, especially at Duke and Kentucky, you have a really set specific system in which you're trying to get those kids in and prepared and out in an 8-month period.
Yep.
Right. And so that is a super critical 8-month period. It's not like a lot of these other colleges that are looking at 3.5 to 4 years of a process of trying to build up a prospect and build up a contender and a team as a whole. Duke and Kentucky, and now teams like Arizona State, who've just had the ability to get into the area of elite recruiting, are saying, what can we get done in this 8-month window? Every moment is crucial. You take away a lot of those moments with COVID cancellations, with not being able to be around their family, and with other disruptions. You're just not going to be able to run that 8-month formula appropriately.
Well, I mean, and we saw this in college football too. And it was more prevalent with the quarterbacks, right? You saw this with Michigan breaking in a new quarterback. You saw this with Penn State. That's why they struggled as well. Look at the team. I mean, even Oregon had inconsistent play, especially from the quarterback spot. But it's the pandemic had a lot to do with how these teams perform. You have look at Alabama, older quarterback. He had played a lot last year, and Mac Jones, they win the title. Granted, they're very talented as well. Clemson, how did they deal with the pandemic? Fantastic. Trevor Lawrence. Ohio State, Justin Fields. Notre Dame, Ian Book. Texas A&M, Kellen Mond. Oklahoma struggled in the beginning, breaking in a brand new quarterback, Spencer Rattler. Florida.
But they got, how many games did they get to play?
10,
so Oklahoma figures it out by the end because they get to play 10 games. But you look at your quarterback thing could not be more true. Grant Gunnell at University of Arizona almost knocked off USC. 4 games later, and a shoulder sprain later, they're losing to Arizona State 70-7.
Yep.
Like, there's just so much is so delicate this year that I really caution anybody who's putting too much weight on any of the outcomes or anything that happens this year in football or basketball. I'm not saying it needs to have an asterisk if somebody succeeds. I'm saying it needs to be celebrated even more if somebody succeeds.
Oh, yeah.
Because the odds are just stacked against everyone right now.
100% agree. You guys, forgot to tell you earlier, but we will not have a show on Wednesday. We're getting stuff transferred over to iHeart and all that stuff. So make sure that you guys join. Make sure you listen to us the same places you already do. You listen to us on iHeart as well. This is Wrighster or Wrong. I'm George Wrighster. He's Ralph Amsden. Peace out. Catch you guys on Friday.